Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. I am president of Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, a registered builder in the state of Texas, a member of the National Home Builders Association, and also a member of the U.S. Green Building Council. My guest today, I've got two guests, Steve Croft, he's owner of Croft Foam Insulation and Protective Coatings, and Mac Davis with MHD Construction. How are y'all this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Doing fine. How are you, Jim?
All right. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about foam insulation, different applications of it, different types of foam. And we just got through with a CASA, which 6 builders built playhouses and were given away this past Saturday. And Steve is the one that actually did the application of the foam on my castle. And he is quite an artist. We trying to get into whimsical houses and different applications to foam, and we were talking about doing theme rooms, and it's quite popular now in certain areas where you can go in and decorate, make one wall three-dimensional. Steve, give us some information on some foam. We're using like closed cell foam on these structures, correct?
Yeah, Jim, we're using a 2-pound closed cell rigid type foam insulation. And we spray it on. It's a 2-component system, and it is sprayed on at various thicknesses, and then you can go in and carve the foam and give it whatever type of structure you want, and then we can come in and put protective coatings over the foam. So really, your imagination's your limit.
All right. I know you do some work over in Dallas, don't you, for like the Dallas Science Museum and stuff like that?
We've had some pieces go in for backdrops on the Museum of Science and Natural History over in Dallas and the one over in Fort Worth. So we have a lot of people that use it for graphic arts.
You had built a cave or something over there, didn't you? You were telling me about it.
Yeah, we'd sprayed the foam on a cave for a museum piece that we did for a company out of Dallas there.
We had one that had they were showing oil exploration or something, where they had a drill stem coming down through it and all that.
Yeah. Like I said, your imagination's your limit.
Wow. Yeah, I know if you go in and we can make either a wall, three-dimensional, or make an entire room, a particular theme, correct?
Yes.
So, is it best to go in and just spray it or do like we did on the castle and kind of use it as an encapsulant around already an existing design?
Yes. You'll start out with your rough design, and then we'll come in and spray the foam over it, and then you can do some final carving and so forth to get your final product that you want. On
carving that stuff, I know that stuff is pretty tough. You got to use routers, chainsaws, and hot knives and stuff like that.
Hot knives don't work too good on polyurethane, but I've seen people use chainsaws, sawzalls, hand saws, anything with a serrated edge on it's going to trim the foam. Yeah,
because I've tried to carve it like with a knife and stuff, and that just doesn't. A smooth bladed knife doesn't cut it so well.
Yeah.
But Mac, what have you been up to since last week? Anything?
A few remodels.
Yes. Doing any foam?
No, we've got some bids to foam in some new construction.
All right. Well, foam insulation is one of your probably best installations that you can get. They've had all sorts of tests done. How many types of foam are there, Steve?
There's currently 2 types of foam on the market. The traditional 2-pound, 3-pound closed cell rigid type foams, and then there's a newer open cell type foam, which is a water blown foam. A little bit more environmentally friendly because it uses water as a blowing agent, and it's much more cost competitive than the rigid type foams. They're used more in the commercial and industrial end now, and the open cell type foams have really taken over the residential market.
Well, they're a lot less expensive than the closed cell, correct?
They are. The petroleum-based catalysts used in the rigid type foams have caused quite a bit of an increase in the rigid foam in the last 3 years. and we haven't seen much of a price increase at all on the open cell foam. So it's just much more cost effective.
Well, I know that I prefer the closed cell foam because it adds racking strength to whatever you're blowing it into, right? Yeah,
it does. It adds a lot of rigidity to the envelope, the building envelope, so that on a 2x4 wall, studies have shown with the 2-pound rigid foam, you increase the racking strength by over 250%. So it's a trade-off. You're going to get more racking strength with the closed cell foams, but if you build strength into the structure, then it may not be as big of a concern for you.
Well, I know the castle we built, we put a fire retardant coating on it and then went back with an elastomeric coating on top of that, and it's pretty UV sensitive, so you've got to if you're going to have it exposed, you've got to get it coated pretty quick. And you said like within 24 hours?
Yes, it's best to get the coating on there as soon as possible because the UV rays from the sunlight will break the polyurethane down. And so anytime that it's left exposed outside, you do need to put some protective coating over it.
Well, there's about 46 million under-insulated homes in the U.S. today. And if your house was built anywhere from 5 to 10 years ago, insulation is one thing you want to look at going back in with. Now, we're doing a lot of conditioned space now in attics and stuff. So if I wanted to come back in and remodel a house and actually do conditioned space, we'd have to go back in and remove all the existing insulation on the sheetrock, right?
It's best when you do that. When you do the thermal envelope like you're talking about, coming in and spraying on the underside of the roof line, you don't want insulation on the flat part of the attic floor. You create a situation where you can have stagnant air there because the air is not going to move any, and you're not letting that conditioned air from inside migrate on up into your attic, and then therefore your attic becomes a conditioned space. So, you're really providing a thermal break up on the roof line as opposed to the attic floor. So, on remodels, you may want to think about pulling some of that old insulation up.
Yeah, I would recommend it because that's, we were talking, I guess, before the show about a house you did down in Glenrose, I believe it was, that they did the attic above the living space and then put a knee wall up between the garage and the living area and put a door there, and you went up, could go up over the garage, and it was 155 degrees, and then open that door and go in above the living space, and it was 80 degrees. And that is probably the most efficient way to run your air conditioning system is put all your ducts and everything in a conditioned space to keep them cool.
Absolutely. That's the whole concept behind the thermal envelope is your attic becomes a conditioned space. Therefore, all your utilities that are up in the attic, they're in a conditioned space. So, you're pulling all that heat load off of it in the summer, and you're eliminating any heat loss in the winter. So by doing that, plus controlling your air movement, it makes for a much more efficient house. And it's really the way to do new construction.
Oh, I know it.
It's the only way to go.
If you can afford the closed cell, that is probably the superior way to go. I would, in my opinion. Don't you think?
Yeah. On the walls, we would still do a closed cell type of foam. On the roof line, you're going to come in and spray open cell foam. On that, it's much more cost effective that way. You still get just as much insulation value. You may not have as much pure racking strength, although the open cell foam does bring your wind load up to about 160 miles an hour on your roof line. So it still adds some strength to the envelope, and it's much more cost effective. Also, when you spray the closed cell rigid type foam on the roof line, it may require some type of thermal protection, whether it be a 15-minute ignition barrier or a 15-minute thermal barrier. So therefore, you're looking at an added expense of the protective coating to go over the closed cell foams, plus the added cost of the material itself So you're much more better off going with the open cell on the roof line.
On the roof line, if you're playing that. Now we're talking about spraying it right up on the decking, underneath side decking. Looks like we're signaling here for a break. We'll take a break here, and we'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
YourCircleOfWealth.com. A recent study by one of the world's largest financial institutions estimates that over 90% of baby boomers will not retire financially independent. We have prepared a financial report entitled Your Circle of Wealth. Learn how changing the way you manage your money can dramatically increase your wealth. To get a copy, you may go to www.yourcircleofwealth.com and enter the passcode Gibson, Gibson. That's yourcircleofwealth.com.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties with a selection of interior and exterior lighting fixtures. They also have ceiling fans, mirrors, and vanities in all sizes. A lighting consultant will help you with your decisions. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
North Texas Basements, 817-770-2768. With over 30 years of experience in residential construction, add extra living area, storm protection, and extra room that will be easy to heat and cool without needing a large piece of ground to build on. Think about having a basement in your next home. North Texas Basements, 817-770-BSMT or 817-770-2768. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Steve Croft with Croft Foam Insulating Protective Coatings and Mac Davis with MHD Construction. And we're talking about foam today. We're talking about the foam insulating, I guess, in different types of applications, different types of foam, and what we need to do in certain areas. And we were talking during the break about closed cell and the open cell foam. And if you're spraying closed cell foam, you need to keep that, you said, off the rafters unless you want to add an extra cost of a thermal barrier.
Correct.
Which is a fire retardant, correct?
Yeah, you need some type of thermal protection over the closed cell rigid foams because code requires a 15-minute thermal barrier over that exposed foam or an ignition barrier. So you'd want to check with your local building officials to find out exactly what they may require. Some of the open cell type foams don't require any ignition barrier or thermal barrier over those. So it keeps your costs down and it still insulates just as well.
Let's talk about some R values. Why did they put an R value on there? They've got, I was reading a bunch of stuff over the internet about R value being kind of a mythical thing and favoring fiberglass primarily. They said that you could take closed cell foam and put it underwater, bring it back out, and put it up, and the difference in temperature would not vary. But you could take like fiberglass, drop it in a glass of water, and bring it back out, and then have it sub-zero outside. It's going to be sub-zero inside because it's going to freeze.
Yeah.
So it's not apples to apples when we're talking R values. So.
Absolutely not. R value is really just part of the insulation equation. You've got convective, conductive, radiant, thermal, air infiltration, air exfiltration, moisture accumulation. Foam is the only insulation that covers all of those factors. That's why we can go in and spray a cold storage building and only put a R21 on those buildings. 3 inches of closed cell rigid is about an R21. And yet they can bring those buildings down to 35 degrees 24/7 with a minimum amount of refrigeration. That'll give you an idea of the insulating power of foam. You know, years ago, Jim, when they built an ice box, they made it out of either rock wool or cork.
Right.
And it was about 6 inches thick. And when they started using foam, they shrank down to 1.5 inch thick walls.
Right.
So you can't just go by R value alone, especially with foam.
Well, yeah, they like you take the primary problem we have here is moisture infiltration. And you take like fiberglass insulation, put it in a wall, and you've got a 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing against it, and you don't have a vapor barrier on the outside, then that insulation's going to absorb some moisture, and your R rating's dropping consistently with it. The more moist it gets, and with foam, you're actually sealing off all penetrations.
Yeah, it's a situation where you're controlling your air movement. And, you know, years ago when houses weren't insulated very well and efficiency wasn't an issue, you didn't have these problems with houses being too tight or with mold problems. Back in the 70s, everybody started bumping up their tonnage, and really they created a vicious cycle where the house wasn't sealed off properly enough for the air movement. So you start bringing your envelope down to, say, 78 degrees with 50-60% humidity, when outside it may be 95-100 degrees with 85% humidity. Something's got to give there.
Right.
And it's going to condensate, and that's where we created situations where we see mold problems and so forth. With foam, you control that air movement, and you give it such an excellent thermal break that your HVAC system works so much better. It's much better at pulling the moisture out of the air. So it's a total building sciences deal, and foam is really not the only equation. It's part of a system. You've got to figure in using foam, low-E windows, a variable speed 2-stage type HVAC system with some type of fresh air intake. We come back, we caulk all your gang studs, your window headers, your base plate, top plate. We want to make sure that any air that's pulled in through that house is pulled in properly through the HVAC system.
All right, looks like we got to take another break. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you having a construction-related issue? Do you need a construction attorney? If so, you may call the law firm of Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Kelly's family background in the construction industry has led to her focus in construction litigation, with over 9 years of experience practicing construction law in and around the metro area. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com, or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009. Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Principal offices are located in Louisville, Texas.
Alamo Appliance, 100 South Riverside Drive in Fort Worth, has been dedicated to serving your needs in kitchen appliances for over 35 years. They offer Genair, KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Amana, and many others. Their experienced sales staff will help you make the right decisions at the right time. That's Alamo Appliance, 817-531-2701. Once again, that's Alamo Appliance, 817-531-2701.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
I'm Jean Gibson, and I love Weatherford, and I'm proud to offer Zion Hill Estates. Zion Hill Estates is a country development 5 minutes from the center of Weatherford, grocery stores, hospitals, banks, department stores, and in the Peaster School District. 1 acre lot minimums gives you space to spread your arms and enjoy country living. 2 or more acres will give you space for your horse or your goats. Gibson Home Builders, 682-429-2116. We'd like to show you the land and an energy-efficient model home. The number is 682-429-2116.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Steve Croft with Croft Foam Insulating and Protective Coatings and Mac Davis with MHD Construction. Mac is involved in a lot of remodeling, restoration. The last show we did was on restoration, but today we're talking about foam. But do you ever use any foam in your restoration projects?
We try to get them to do the attics, either the lid of the roof or any place we can get it in there. Normally, there's no insulation in these old homes.
I know.
Nothing.
I know. That's the way they were built back then. Well, energy costs weren't that much.
Right, and there wasn't much to be put up.
Well, yeah, we saw a big influx. You've been doing my foam for, I guess, about 7 years now, because I started foaming, I guess, right out of the box.
Yeah,
and the people that we put it in for are so pleased with their electric bill as far as their heating and cooling bill, because it's next to nothing compared to their neighbors and stuff. I mean, we built houses. Well, that one up in Glen Rose, we did a kind of a combination on that one, but his electric bill was less than $100. His heating and cooling bill was less than $100 a month, and he had neighbors that were running like $600 and $700.
yeah. It is seeing is believing. When you get those, first few utility bills, then you believe. You can hear the stories, but until then, once you see the utility bills, then you believe in the system. It's more of an upfront cost, but you figure that you're going to pay once now to have it insulated, and utility rates are just going to keep climbing. They're not going to go down.
Yeah, that's what we try to tell our people when we're going in building this new construction stuff. If they can actually afford the foam, it will pay for itself in the first 5 years or less. Yeah. You can lock in your mortgage payment, and right now interest rates are very low. And so if you're building a home now, I strongly suggest using the foam insulation. You won't regret it ever.
I've never had a customer come back and say, I wished I had not foamed my house. I've had a lot come back and say, man, I wished I would have foamed my house.
Yeah. We built a house, we built several houses, but one in particular over in Burleson, and you did the foam job on that, and that was over there for, I can't think the name of the street, Muscadine. I think Muscadine Court. And we actually did solid, close-cell foam on that one. And they had called me one August, and their highest bill had been like $250. And she had a girlfriend that was building her house, and they were wondering why they were spending so much on the insulation and all this other stuff. Well, her girlfriend's bill was $1,250.
Yeah.
And so they were actually saving about $1,000 a month on their electric bill, and have not regretted it at all.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, they've already got their money back on the installation cost.
Yeah, it will. It's going to provide a higher rate of return and a faster rate of return. You are going to spend more money up front. You cannot compare it price wise with, fiberglass. That's the cheapest insulation in the world, and it is not comparable price wise. It's definitely an upgrade, but besides the cost savings on your utility bills, it's a comfort thing. Also,
I know.
You're going to be much more comfortable in a house that's foamed. It's much quieter. The open cell foams, that's one of the great things about doing the thermal envelope where we come spray the roof line, is that the open cell foam will actually absorb a lot of the noise that you create inside that building envelope. So you're going to feel drier. Your HVAC system is actually going to be able to be much more effective about drying your air out, because that is really the responsibility of your HVAC system. And since the foam is so much more efficient, it's such a much better thermal break. It's a much better way of controlling your air movement. Once you've done those two things, it allows your HVAC system to work much better.
Well, it lasts longer too, because it doesn't have to run as hard. And I know when we do foam houses, you actually get to tell your HVAC guy that we've actually foamed a home because we decrease the size of the unit itself.
Yeah, you need to pull back on the tonnage a little bit. There's a little controversy about how much and what percentage. You really should, have some load calcs done by your HVAC contractor, but generally you're going to reduce the tonnage. You're going to reduce the CFMs because you don't need as much airflow.
Right.
As many CFMs anyways. You still want the airflow, but you can reduce that a little bit. So you want to let those guys know ahead of time so that they can size everything correctly.
Well, you also want a fresh air exchange unit, and that's mandatory, people. Mandatory. If you foam a house, you're sealing that thing up like an ice chest, and you don't have like in the old days, you had wind blowing it. You had an air exchange in the house, whether you wanted it or not. Mm-hmm. It came through little cracks and crevices everywhere. But when you foam a home, it seals it up like an ice chest. So you actually have to bring in outside air and do an air exchange to keep it from having sick house syndrome.
And it's much more efficient by doing that because you're pulling all the air in through that handler, and it will precondition. Some systems it'll precondition the air before it actually dumps it into the system.
Yeah, I think just about all of them do. All the ones we put in.
You'll see guys just dumping raw air in.
Oh,
that's not a very efficient way to do it.
No.
They have some different systems, and I'm not a HVAC engineer, so we try to put people in contact with those guys and make sure that they can properly size everything. But you want that air coming in through that air handler. We're going to come in there. We're going to caulk all the gang studs, the window headers, the top plate, the base plate. We're going to seal it up so tight that you need some fresh air to be pulled in, and it's much more efficient when you do that.
Oh yeah,
the air handler.
That's why they have the blower door test that they bring in when you're doing your Energy Star rating and all this other stuff. It costs you a little extra to have all the tests done, but they actually put a blower at the door and measure air leakage. They measure your duct leakage and all this other stuff. And if you foam a home, pretty well you don't have any leakage.
Yeah, you're almost there just with the foam alone. And with having that air handler, that keeps it from being too tight. You can have a blower door test done, and it can either be too low of a rating or it can be too high of a rating and actually be too tight.
Right.
And that's where that air handler can come in.
Well, that's where that outside air exchange unit comes in.
Yeah.
And when we put them in, we set them to come on at different intervals during the day. And generally they've got a humidistat on them and they've got a thermostat on them. And if temperature is above 100 degrees, it won't allow it to come on. If humidity is above 80%, it won't have them come on. So you're not bringing in a lot of moisture, but you're still going through the air handler itself. So you're actually drying it out and conditioning the air coming in from the outside. Plus it's filtered, and that is the best way to go. And if you're building a house out there, I guarantee you will never regret going with foam insulation.
Not if it's done correctly.
I know. Well, yeah.
And that's something that you really want to check into also, because, we're basically bringing the raw materials out to the job site and manufacturing it on site. And you can get the best spray foam in the world. There's various brands but it's all up to the person at the end of that hose. If they don't care what they're doing, they're going to do you a bad job, and it can haunt you later.
It can haunt you. Plus, you can actually don't you have a combustion problem if you just lay on that spray gun and spray it pretty thick?
Yeah, we've seen instances where some contractors have come in and put, like 12 inches of rigid foam in 2 passes, and you create so much heat just by the mixing of the 2 materials, plus you heat it up. It's such a good insulation that it traps that heat. It can't dissipate, and eventually, it can crack open and combust. And in the 27, 28 years I've been in the foam business, I think I've seen most things that can happen with people doing stuff like that. Well,
they've got I know they've got some bio-based foams out now. They're an open cell, correct?
They are, and they have some water-blown rigids currently coming out on the market also, but that's really a small percentage of the total makeup of the foam. Everybody wants to claim they're got a green product and this and that. In reality, that's such a small percentage of the whole product that it's to me it's a marketing type deal.
Well, yeah. Well, we did a show several shows ago on greenwashing, and everybody's kind of jumped on the green bandwagon right now, trying to get in the thing because that energy bills are so high right now that everybody wants to be labeled green. So they're doing a lot of things that are just marketing campaigns and stuff, and they're actually not green.
Yeah.
I mean, the product itself may be green, but it may not be in the manufacturing process, and what it takes to get to that product is not green at all.
Absolutely.
Now, another thing we're doing when we're spraying that foam, we're talking about we're actually stopping all air penetration coming in the house, and that's where you're getting most of your moisture is during these heavy storms and stuff like that. You've got rain blowing sideways and coming through every crack and crevice. So that you're pretty well plugging every hole in the house, correct?
Yeah, you're controlling your air movement by sealing all those penetrations, whether it's a penetration for plumbing, electrical, any type of utility. We're sealing that thing up to where you don't have that air movement, and that's really where you start going down in efficiency, is by not being able to control your air movement, and the fact that it gives you such a good thermal break, by using the foam.
Now, we've talked about the attics and the walls, but you haven't mentioned the flooring underneath old homes.
Yes,
we spray the floors.
We recommend that you do.
A lot of people have a lot of moisture problems coming up from.
And we recommend that you use the closed cell foam in that instance, because any place where you may come in contact with water, being under a house like that,
right.
The closed cell foam is not going to diffuse the water as rapidly as the open cell type foam. Since it is an open cell type foam, if you have some type of water contamination, it will diffuse through there just like it will diffuse through fiberglass or cellulose. The closed cell foam is the only insulation I know of on the market that if it gets wet, once it dries back out, it gives you the same R value. Matter of fact, down around New Orleans, that area down there, a lot of schools are making it mandatory that anything below 16 feet on the walls is sprayed with 2 inches of 2-pound closed cell foam. Therefore, if it ever gets flooded again, all they've got to do is come in, pull the drywall out, and go back up. They do not have to remove the insulation. And it's actually being coated in down there in a lot of places like that.
Well, if you were building in any type of hurricane area or anything that's a chance of flooding, that would be the only foam to use. You see pictures in the news there of all these houses down in Louisiana and areas down there that flooded, and all that fiberglass insulation in there, it just sucked up foam and grew mold like crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and they've even gone on the 4-foot level of them, and they're not even putting a drywall.
Right.
They're putting paperless drywall,
right.
which won't mold. It doesn't attract moisture. And so they don't have to go back and do hardly anything.
Right, yeah, because mold has to have food and has to have water.
Yes.
And mold eats a paper product or a wood product.
Any type of cellulose product, that is food for mold.
Right, and they have to have a drink of water, too. So anytime you get moisture in there and you've got some type of cellulose product, you've got a chance of mold. So what we try to do is stop all penetration. Mac, do you have any questions on this? Or I know we looked at a house here.
Yeah, we were trying to talk her into
Yeah,
doing underneath the house because it was such a moisture problem.
We went up underneath the house. It had like a root cellar that we went up in there and started crawling around, and all the insulation was a fiberglass bat that had to absorb moisture. Of course, when it absorbs moisture, it gets heavy and it starts falling out from underneath the flooring, so she had the insulation hanging down everywhere. And we had proposed to her to go in and remove all that, take it all out, and go in with a closed-cell foam product. And you really wouldn't have to spray it that thick, would you?
No, not in a situation like that. You probably wouldn't put more than an R11 to an R14 of foam. Now remember, an R11 of R14 of foam is much more effective than a R11 of batting or something like that, or cellulose. But the advantage of foam is it's the rigid foam in that instance is moisture's not going to affect it. It's a good vapor barrier or a vapor retarder.
Right.
And it's not going to sag if done properly. You know, if it's applied properly, then it's not going to sag and fall off like fiberglass or cellulose.
Well, you'd have to go in and remove all that and probably put some fans down there and
That's what
dry
I was
it
wondering.
out.
What about a wet situation?
Absolutely.
Will it stick to it?
It will not adhere to anything wet. It needs to be dried out.
Well, we could go in there and open up all the exterior vents and just put fans under there and let her blow for a few days, and then go back in and spray the foam.
Absolutely.
I know we were talking about going in with some type of rigid foam product that would we were going to staple up in there, or actually use cap nails and nail up in there because of just cost. But we were talking about this particular project, I think, before the show started, and they were pretty tight on the budget. But when you're spraying stuff like that, I was reading that an inch and a half, if you can just blow in an inch to an inch and a half, that is probably 10 times better than anything you could put in there other than foam.
Absolutely, because of the thermal resistance and the fact that you're controlling your air movement. It's such a good thermal break. And it just the nature of the foam when you spray it, it's a liquid when it goes on, so it gets in all your little cracks and crevices and around your penetrations, and then it swells up and it seals all those leaks up. So it's a situation where you're, again, controlling air movement and providing an excellent thermal break.
I know I have a lot of fun with it every year when we build these homes for Casa. We built a mushroom house last year, and Steve, we build the frame basically, and last year on this mushroom house, that was our first venture into the whimsical homes, and we used kind of a cheesecloth in between the studs to spray it on, and I think we wasted a lot of foam when we was blowing through there. I know we used like 640 pounds of foam on that mushroom, and this year we kind of wised up and got something that the foam would stick to immediately. And like we were talking about those whimsical houses, anything you can imagine you can do with foam. Plus, I was telling people that got the castle down here, you could actually put some insulated doors on that thing, seal off the roof, and make a walk-in cooler.
Yeah, you're 2/3 of the way to a cooler. I mean, you've got 2 inches of closed cell 2-pound foam. We only put 3 inches on a cooler.
Okay, we need to add one more inch.
1 more inch, and you could actually bring that thing down to just above freezing 24/7. Have I ever told you about the rail cars that we insulate with the foam? These cars are owned by a major rail company here local, and they lease these cars to a big beer manufacturer. And I'm not going to say any names,
okay,
but they only have one brewery in the whole United States. And they'll take a rail car up to their brewery, and they'll put that rail car inside the cooler and open the doors, and they'll bring the inside of the rail car down to about 35 degrees, just above freezing. Then they put all their cold beer in there, which is about 35 degrees. They'll shut the doors on the rail cars. 10 days later, say that car arrives in Miami, Florida, and they open up the doors, it's lost 9 degrees in 10 days.
And it has no refrigeration unit?
Has no refrigeration unit. They're actually trapping that air, that conditioned air from the brewery, and they don't want their beer to get over 45 degrees because it's pasteurized.
Right.
And they know that if they post to pre-refrigerate it to 35 degrees, 10 days later when they open that rail car door, it's only gotten up to 44 degrees.
Wow.
So it's a situation where you're trapping that conditioned air in that rail car, and it's such a good thermal break that you're not losing any of your temperature in there.
I know we had a house over here we were working on in Burleson. You'd foamed all the walls, and we didn't have the foam in the attic yet. And we came in there one morning, and we had left the day before. I think it was we had it up to about 60 degrees in there. Well, it got down to like 22 degrees overnight. We came back in that house, and it was up to about, I guess it got around 40 degrees in there. And we went around, and we had temporary light bulbs in there, with incandescent lights. We just turned on all the light bulbs. Well, it took us about 2 hours, and we raised it 20 degrees with just light bulbs on in the house. And I tell people, you can heat it with a light bulb and you can cool it with an ice cube.
Yeah, you sure can.
And like I said, if you can just bear the expense up front to put this stuff in, you are so much better off. And I try to hammer that home to people, but they would rather have something that they can see, as far as a pretty countertop or a nice claw-footed bathtub or some imported tile from Italy. And then, they're not really thinking, they're putting their money on all the fluff, and they're not really putting it in on where it should be put in.
Yeah, you are seeing somewhat of a change in people's attitude because of the utility rates.
Well,
I mean, it's driving, it's really driving the phone market, because people are becoming more receptive to spending that money up front. It used to be all they could think about was how pretty were the cabinets going to be, what type of wood floor am I going to put in, am I going to use granite countertops or so forth. I know a lot of people now going in, they're thinking about energy conservation, and a builder such as yourself, that's always been at the forefront of your building as you build energy efficient homes.
Right. All right, we've got to take another break. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you looking for a law firm with an understanding of the construction industry? Kelly M. Davis & Associates experience includes home inspections, construction contracts, disputes with builders, and helping subcontractors or vendors that have not been paid for their services. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com, or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009.
Kelly M. Davis & Associates. Principal offices are located in Louisville, Texas. Croft Foam Insulation and Protective Coatings has over 25 years of experience in the spray foam business, serving residential, commercial, and industrial clients. Croft Foam specializes in open and closed-cell polyurethane foam applications to construction, refrigerated trailers, and even castles. Croft Foam is a Fort Worth-based company. You may reach them by calling 817-482-1664 or email at foamman@swbell.net.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Steve Croft with Croft Foam Insulating and Protective Coatings, and Mac Davis, my partner in crime on restorations and remodeling and everything else in the world. Mac, we were talking about foam, and I guess you're recommending it to all of your clients out there. Ones
where we can get to any insulation to it. I've run into one that you can't insulate the walls.
Can't at all.
It's block and stucco, and
you
can't even get electricity in it. So floors and ceilings only. So it makes things difficult.
Oh, I know, and really this is one of the things, people, that you can do that will save you money from the time you complete it here on out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to last the life of the house.
Oh, yeah.
Once you cover that foam up and protect it from the UV rays, then it's not going to degrade or oxidize or anything to start breaking down. So,
what about going into an existing house, and they've got some foams now that you can bore like a hole at the top, the 2x4 wall, and you bore one at the bottom, and then actually fill it with it's an open cell type foam.
Yeah, they make a pour type open cell foam, and on some walls now, you got to remember that one slide overfill, and it can take and push that drywall or whatever right off the studs.
So you got to know what you're doing.
Absolutely, because it has a lot of compressive strength, and you're putting it in such a small, tight cavity that you always run that risk. Now, Mike was talking about a wall that was plaster.
It's plaster on both sides with block in the center.
Okay.
So there is no
cavity.
Yeah.
There's no wood in the wall.
No, okay, yeah, that would be kind of hard to do. We've seen some walls, old walls, that were plastered with a 2x4 cavity in there,
right,
and you can bore holes in there, and it's gonna take the compressive strength. We've done some older houses that have like shiplap board on the outside and the inside,
right,
and some remodels where they've come in and pulled the drywall down, so we'll go in and bore holes in that cavity, and we can inject foam in there. It's just a risky proposition that you do, because like I said, one slight overfill, and it can push that drywall
You're
off.
telling me you need to know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Take your time on that.
Now, the open cell foam, it expands, about 100 times, and the closed cell about 30 times?
About there. Somewhere around there, yeah.
Did I remember my figures correctly?
Yes.
I know it's amazing when you see this stuff done. We've done it on about 95 or maybe 99% of the houses that I've built. Mm-hmm. I think you've foamed most all of them with one type of foam or another, and we've kind of gone to the open cell now because of the cost of oil.
Yeah.
And polyurethane is an oil-based product, so I know with oil at $115 a barrel, it's going to be going up some more, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, we haven't seen any price increases coming on now. It's not to say that we might not get a letter next month stating they're raising prices, but it wouldn't surprise me. But I said the closed cell rigid foam, it's gone up about 100% in 3 years, just the raw material cost. Yeah. The open cell foams have not went up that much. So, you don't see a lot of closed cell foam used in residential anymore because it's almost priced itself out of the residential market. Now, there's some instances in commercial and industrial applications where they have to use the closed cell foam.
Right.
Coolers, freezers, situations like that, you're going to have to use closed cell.
Yeah, you were talking also, they've got some government uses for this stuff where they were actually putting them in bomb-proof shelters, or they were using a, you said, a haydite block wall and they foamed over it?
Well, actually, they're putting the protective coating over it.
Oh, that's
polyurea coatings over that, and as a blast coating to mitigate any damage. And there's a lot of success shown with those coatings, and it really just glues everything together so that when you do have a blast like that, everything fractures, but it doesn't come apart on you.
Okay.
So
we've got to take another break. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you looking for a law firm with an understanding of the construction industry? Kelly M. Davis and Associates experience includes home inspections, construction contracts, disputes with builders, and helping subcontractors or vendors that have not been paid for their services. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com, or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009.
Kelly M. Davis and Associates principal offices are located in Louisville, Texas. Croft Foam Insulation and Protective Coatings has over 25 years of experience in the spray foam business, serving residential, commercial, and industrial clients. Croft Foam specializes in open and closed cell polyurethane foam applications to construction, refrigerated trailers, and even castles. Croft Foam is a Fort Worth-based company. You may reach them by calling 817-482-1664 or email at foamman@swbell.net. I'm Jean Gibson, and I love Weatherford, and I'm proud to offer Zion Hill Estates. Zion Hill Estates is a country development 5 minutes from the center of Weatherford, grocery stores, hospitals, banks, department stores, and in the Peaster School District. 1 acre lot minimums gives you space to spread your arms and enjoy country living. 2 or more acres will give you space for your horse or your goats. Gibson Home Builders, 682-429-2116. We'd like to show you the land and an energy-efficient model home. The number is 682-429-2116.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show has been sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Steve Croft with Croft Foam Insulating and Protective Coatings, and Mike Davis, my cohort in crime with MHD Construction. And we're talking about foam today, and we just briefly touched on protective coatings, and that is a big thing in certain applications with foam, correct?
Yes, you can encapsulate the foam with the polyurea coatings, and it just really increases the tensile strength, the hardness, and gives it a good, tough protective coating.
Yeah, the polyurea coatings are stuff like bed liners and products like that. Is that work?
Yeah, it's typically used in the bed liner application, styrofoam encapsulation, anything where you need good chemical resistance. And good shore hardness.
I know they used to make the boat docks and all this other stuff, and they'd put the styrofoam flotation underneath it, and I always wondered what kept them from sinking if somebody came out there and poured a bunch of gasoline on it and it dissolved that styrofoam.
Yeah. The polyurea coatings add a real good chemical resistance, a good shore hardness. So, you cannot put raw styrofoam in any lake in the state of Texas anymore with the Clean Water Act. So, therefore, you can take a styrofoam block and cut it to whatever size or shape that you want, and then come in and put the protective coating on there, and it's virtually indestructible. I mean, we had a customer who lost their whole floating dock to a tornado at Possum Kingdom Lake, and the only thing he salvaged was the styrofoam blocks.
Just went around and picked them up.
He said he drove around, he'd see 2 or 3 of them over in this farmer's field and 2 or 3 of them there, and they actually salvaged all their old flotation blocks, but they had to build a new frame for it.
Well, yeah, but Mac, you got anything else this week that you want to throw in? Any advice or questions? Or?
I do wonder about one thing. Closing up this with foam, moisture in wood. What happens in the long run? Have they had any results and tests of, inside rotting?
The foam is not going to rot. If you have some kind
treated lumber, and you have to close it up, it should dry out 6 weeks before. So
you're not going to have a problem unless you have some type of water contamination. I mean, if you have a situation where you're below grade or some type of plumbing leak to where you have some kind of water contamination, then that can be a problem. But that's not really the foam.
Okay, we've got to wrap this show up this week. Steve, you want to tell us how to get in touch with you and where people can find you? You've got a website and your phone number?
You can reach me by phone at 817-482-1664. You can go online. My website is Croft, Croft, foam.com. My email is foamman@swbell.net.
All right. Mac, got anything?
Website,
yeah. You got a new website, don't you? What is
it? www.mhdsquarespace.com.
Squarespace. Where'd you come up with Squarespace?
That was the program we put it in on.
All right. Well, all right. It looks like we're going to wrap it up this week. We'll see you next Tuesday.